Clara sat on the worn wooden floor of her small cabin, the weight of her circumstances heavy on her heart. The flickering candlelight cast shadows on the walls, reminding her of the life she once shared with her husband. Just months ago, laughter and love filled this space. Now, it was filled with silence and sorrow. As she gently cradled her round belly, a bittersweet smile crossed her face. She felt the baby kick, a reminder that life continued despite her grief. The world outside her door was unforgiving. Winter had settled in, wrapping the landscape in a blanket of white. Snow piled high against the cabin, cutting her off from the village and any hope for help. Her husband had always been the provider, skilled at hunting and gathering. Without him, Clara felt vulnerable and lost. Each day was a struggle for food and warmth, and as she fought to prepare for motherhood alone, fear gnawed at her insides. The nights were particularly daunting. The wind howled, rattling the cabin walls as Clara lay awake, imagining all that could go wrong. The stories of wild animals prowling close to human settlements haunted her thoughts. She often found herself wondering if they could sense her weakness. With each creak of the floorboards or rustle of branches outside, her heart raced with dread. Yet, amid the fear, a spark of resilience burned within Clara. She knew she had to survive, for herself and for the child growing inside her. The thought of motherhood gave her strength to face each new day. She began to gather what little supplies were left in the cabin, determined to make it through this harsh winter somehow. Little did she know that fate had plans for her that would change everything, a journey that would lead her to an unexpected ally in an unlikeliest of places. Clara's days in the remote village were filled with monotony and hardship. Each morning, she awoke to the cold, the air crisp against her skin as she shivered and wrapped herself tighter in her worn blanket. The cabin was small and offered little comfort, but it was all she had. She would light a fire with trembling hands, savoring the warmth as she prepared a meager breakfast of porridge made from the last of her flour. The supplies dwindled daily, making each meal a careful decision between saving what remained or nourishing herself. After breakfast, Clara ventured outside, taking a deep breath of the frosty air. The world around her was a winter wonderland, but the beauty held hidden dangers. The trees loomed like silent sentinels, their bare branches swaying in the chill wind. Clara felt the weight of solitude on her shoulders as she trudged through the thick snow, searching for firewood. With each step, her body protested, and she often paused to rest, clutching her belly and reminding herself of the life growing within her. The isolation brought a constant sense of unease. Stories of wild animals creeping near human dwellings echoed in her mind, making her hyper-aware of every sound. The howl of distant wolves sent shivers down her spine. At times, she would spot tracks in the snow, large paw prints that filled her with dread. She couldn't help but wonder if they might come closer one day. The fear pushed her to be extra cautious, each creak in the floorboards at night made her heart race. Yet Clara also found strength in her solitude. With no distractions, she spent time thinking about the future and preparing for motherhood. She lovingly arranged blankets and clothes made from scraps she had saved. When the sun began to set each day, she would gaze out at the twilight sky, hope flickering like the dying embers of her fire, reminding her that life could still hold surprises, even in the depths of winter. The winds howled outside Clara's cabin, rattling the windows and filling her with unease. She had spent the day gathering what little firewood remained, knowing a storm was brewing. As twilight approached, dark clouds rolled in, blotting out the sun and casting an eerie shadow over the land. The air grew colder, and Clara felt a chill beyond the winter's grasp, sensing that something was coming. That night, as she huddled by the fire with her heart heavy, the storm broke loose. Snow fell in thick sheets, swirling around her cabin like a white veil. The howling wind drowned out all other sounds, and Clara drew the blankets closer around her. She closed her eyes, hoping to sleep through the worst of it. But just as she began to drift off, a loud crash made her bolt upright. Something had hit the roof. With a racing heart, Clara got up and peeked out through a crack in the door. The scene was chaotic, snow piled high against the cabin door now threatened to trap her inside. Suddenly, she spotted movement in the snow, a large shape darting between the trees. Her fear surged when she recognized it, a wolf prowled near her home. It was drawn by hunger and desperation. Realizing she could not stay trapped in this isolated space while danger lurked outside, panic set in. What if the wolf found its way inside? The thought of protecting her unborn baby pushed Clara into action. She quickly gathered what few supplies she could carry, some food remnants and a small blanket, determined to seek help before it was too late. With every ounce of courage within her, Clara stepped into the blizzard, letting instinct guide her towards safety and new possibilities, leaving behind not only her cabin but also the life she once knew. The biting cold stung her face as she trudged through the deep snow, each step filled with uncertainty but fueled by hope for rescue on this perilous journey ahead. As Clara trudged through the swirling snow, her heart raced with fear and uncertainty. Little did she know that not far from her cabin lived a skilled hunter named Jack. Nestled in a small clearing surrounded by towering pines, his rustic cabin was as much a part of the wild as the trees themselves. Jack had chosen this solitary life after losing his own family to a tragic accident years ago, seeking solace and peace in the embrace of nature. Jack was a rugged man with weathered hands and deep-set eyes that held stories of survival. He had mastered the art of living alone, becoming attuned to the rhythms of the wilderness. The forest was his home, providing him with all he needed: wild game, fresh water, and an endless expanse to roam. He preferred solitude over company, finding comfort in the quiet sounds of rustling leaves and chirping birds. On this particular night, as Jack prepared his supper over an open flame, he noticed something unusual stirring outside. A flash of movement caught his attention against the backdrop of falling snow. Curiosity piqued, he stepped out into the cold night air. That's when he spotted Clara struggling through the storm, her figure barely visible amid the blizzard. At first glance, Jack was taken aback by her presence. A pregnant woman alone in such harsh conditions was an alarming sight. Thoughts raced through his mind: what could have driven her from safety? He felt an instinctive urge to help her but also wondered what dangers might follow her introduction into his isolated world. While he preferred solitude, something about Clara's brave determination stirred a sense of empathy within him. As she drew nearer, Jack took in her worn clothes and weary expression. The sight sparked a protective instinct buried deep within him. Realizing that this unexpected encounter could change both their lives forever, he stepped forward into the storm to offer assistance, unaware that this meeting would lead them both on a path toward healing and survival amidst their shared struggles. As Clara pushed through the biting wind and swirling snow, her breaths came in shallow gasps, each step feeling heavier than the last. Just when she thought she might collapse, a figure emerged from the curtain of white: Jack, the hunter she had unknowingly approached. His strong presence seemed to part the storm around them as he quickly recognized her plight. "Are you all right?" Jack shouted over the roar of the wind, his voice steady despite the chaos of the storm. Clara could see the concern etched on his weathered face, but fear still flickered within her. She felt exposed and vulnerable standing in front of him, uncertain of who he was or what he wanted. "You're not far from my cabin, come with me," he urged, taking a step closer. Just as Clara considered accepting his help, a low growl shattered the air. She glanced over her shoulder to see the wolf, a shadow lurking just beyond the trees, hungry eyes fixed on her. Panic surged through her body. "We have to go." "It's right there," she gasped, pointing at the approaching threat. Without hesitation, Jack grabbed her arm, his grip reassuring and firm. "This way," he called as he turned and sprinted toward his cabin. Clara followed closely behind, her heart racing with fear and adrenaline. They raced through the thick snow until they reached Jack's sturdy door. Inside, they slammed it shut just as the wolf let out a fierce snarl, its claws scratching against the wood. Clara gasped for breath while Jack moved swiftly to barricade the door. "You're safe now," he said, glancing at her with a mixture of concern and determination. As they caught their breaths, Clara felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. "Thank you," she managed to say, still trembling from both cold and fear. "I thought I wouldn't make it." Jack nodded, understanding that this moment had changed everything for both of them. They had faced danger together, forging an unexpected alliance in the midst of chaos. With their lives so intricately intertwined now, they knew they had to work together to survive, not just from wild animals, but from whatever challenges lay ahead in this unforgiving winter landscape. As the days passed in Jack's cabin, Clara began to adapt to her new circumstances. The initial tension between them slowly melted away, replaced by a sense of shared purpose. They quickly realized that they needed each other's skills to survive the unforgiving winter. One chilly morning, with the sun breaking through the clouds, Jack suggested they go hunting together. "We need more food," he said, his voice steady and confident. Clara hesitated at first. She had never hunted before and felt a wave of apprehension wash over her. But as she looked at Jack, she saw determination etched on his face, and she felt a surge of courage within herself. They set out into the woods, Clara following closely behind Jack as he expertly navigated through the snowy terrain. He taught her how to move quietly and how to identify animal tracks in the snow. With every step they took together, Clara began to trust him more deeply. She admired his knowledge of the land and felt a growing respect for his skills as a hunter. After hours of searching, they finally spotted a small group of deer grazing in a clearing. Jack motioned for Clara to stay still and quiet as he prepared his bow. Her heart raced with excitement and fear. She was both fascinated by the hunt and aware of the life they depended on it for. When Jack released the arrow and struck true, Clara let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. As they returned home with their catch, Clara felt a warmth creeping into her heart. This was not just survival, it was partnership. That evening, they worked together to prepare the meat over an open fire in Jack's cabin while sharing stories about their pasts. With each shared laugh and moment of vulnerability, trust blossomed between them. Their alliance deepened further when winter storms forced them to work side by side to reinforce Jack's cabin against the harsh elements. They gathered fallen branches and built up barriers to keep out the biting wind and snow. Through these shared experiences, hunting for food and fortifying their shelter, they forged an unspoken bond that would guide them through whatever challenges lay ahead in this wild landscape. Clara no longer felt alone. She had found not only an ally but also someone who could understand her struggles in this vast wilderness. Together, they were stronger and more capable than either could have imagined alone. As the days turned into weeks, Clara and Jack found themselves growing closer, yet unspoken prejudices lingered beneath their budding friendship. One evening, while sitting by the fire after a long day of gathering firewood, Clara glanced at Jack, her mind swirling with thoughts about their pasts. "Why did you choose this life?" she asked cautiously, breaking the silence. Jack looked up, surprised by her question. He hesitated before answering, his voice low. "After losing my family in an accident years ago, I thought solitude would help me heal," he admitted. "I didn't want to rely on anyone or feel pain again." Clara listened intently, her heart aching for him. She could relate to that fear. The loss of her husband had left her feeling vulnerable and alone. But part of her still held a prejudice against hunters like him. Growing up in a small village, she had always viewed hunters as ruthless and detached from the softer side of life, people who took without considering the consequences. Noticing her silence, Jack continued to share his thoughts. "I know people see hunters as cold-hearted," he said softly. "But it's about survival out here. It's not always easy." His words struck a chord with Clara, who saw glimpses of his compassion and understanding for nature. In turn, Clara decided to reveal her own struggles. "I always thought those who lived in isolation lacked warmth," she confessed. "But I see now that you're fighting your own battles." As she spoke, she realized how wrong she had been to judge him solely based on his lifestyle. Their shared vulnerabilities broke down the walls between them. They began to understand that their backgrounds shaped but did not define them. Clara learned that Jack was not just a hunter, he was a man seeking purpose in a world filled with loss. Likewise, Jack recognized Clara's strength and resilience as a mother-to-be facing unimaginable challenges. As they continued to navigate through winter's harshness together, their newfound understanding deepened their bond. By confronting their biases and fears head-on, they discovered that compassion and empathy transcended their differences, paving the way for a powerful alliance grounded in mutual respect and shared experiences in the wilderness. As the winter deepened, Clara and Jack faced new challenges that tested their partnership. One evening, while they were preparing dinner, Clara suddenly felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. Panic washed over her as she grasped at her belly, breathless and frightened. Jack noticed her distress immediately, rushing to her side. "What's wrong?" he asked, concern etched across his rugged face. "I don't know," Clara gasped, trying to catch her breath. It hurts." Jack's instinct kicked in. "Sit down. Let me get you some water." He hurried to fetch the water while Clara focused on calming herself, knowing she needed to stay strong for the baby. As Jack returned, he sat beside her and placed a hand on her back, offering comfort and reassurance. After a few tense moments, the pain subsided, but Clara felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. What if something is wrong with the baby? I can't do this alone," she admitted, tears brimming in her eyes. Jack took a deep breath, trying to soothe her fears. "You're not alone, Clara. We'll figure this out together. I promise." His words wrapped around her like a warm blanket. They spent the rest of the evening discussing how they could prepare better for when the baby arrived. Over the next few days, they worked together to gather supplies that would help during labor. Jack crafted a makeshift birthing area in the cabin, collecting soft blankets and towels. Meanwhile, Clara focused on herbs and remedies she remembered from her village that might ease her discomfort. Just as they felt prepared for what lay ahead, another challenge arose. One morning, as they ventured out to check their traps for food, they stumbled upon fresh paw prints in the snow, evidence that a pack of wolves was nearby. The sight sent a chill down Clara's spine. "We need to be careful," she whispered, glancing at Jack. "We'll set up extra barriers around the cabin tonight," he replied firmly. Together, they gathered wood and rocks to fortify their shelter against any possible attack, knowing that safety had to be their priority. As they faced each challenge, both personal and external, they grew stronger as a team. The bond between them deepened with every shared worry and triumph, reinforcing their commitment to not only survive but also to support each other through the uncertainties of life in the wilderness. With Jack by her side, Clara felt increasingly empowered to confront the trials ahead, ready to embrace motherhood with strength and courage. As the days turned into weeks, Clara and Jack's partnership began to blossom into something deeper. The harsh winter outside their cabin became a backdrop for intimate conversations filled with laughter and shared stories. One quiet evening, after a long day of gathering firewood, they settled in front of the crackling fire, the warmth wrapping around them like a comforting blanket. Clara looked over at Jack, who was absently toying with a piece of kindling. "What did you dream of when you were younger?" she asked, curiosity edging into her voice. Jack paused for a moment, caught off guard by the question. He leaned back and sighed, his gaze wandering to the wooden beams above them. "I always wanted to travel," he admitted slowly. "See places beyond these woods. I imagined standing on cliffs overlooking the ocean." A wistful smile crept onto his face. Clara felt a pang in her heart, realizing how far removed he was from that dream now. "What about you?" Jack asked, turning the question back on her. Clara thought for a moment before sharing her own dreams. "I wanted to build a family and create a warm home filled with laughter and love," she said softly, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I thought I had that. Until I lost everything." In that vulnerable moment, they both shared the weight of their past losses, their dreams altered by circumstances beyond their control. It was then that Clara saw Jack not just as a hunter but as a man shaped by grief like herself, someone who understood the depth of pain and longing. As winter continued to bear down on them, they began to forge a friendship built on mutual respect and understanding. They would share meals together, play simple games in the evenings, and find joy in each other's presence amidst the struggles surrounding them. One night, as they sat by the fire exchanging stories about their childhoods, Jack recounting tales of his adventurous youth while Clara described the vibrant village where she grew up, laughter filled the cabin. It echoed against the walls like a melody they both desperately needed. Through small moments of connection and recognition of their shared experiences, Clara felt her heart open up towards Jack in ways she hadn't expected. Their bond deepened further as they learned to lean on each other for comfort and companionship, proving that even in isolation's starkness, friendship could grow strong enough to warm their souls against winter's chill. One day, amidst the deepening winter, Clara and Jack decided to venture out to check the traps they had set for food. The air was frigid, and the snow crunched beneath their boots as they made their way through the silent forest. It felt good to work together, and their laughter echoed in the stillness, a small reminder of warmth against the cold. As they approached a trap, Jack suddenly stopped, raising a hand to signal Clara. "Wait," he whispered, pointing ahead. In the distance, a large shape moved through the trees, another wolf, but this one appeared larger and more menacing than before. "Jack, we should turn back," Clara urged, her heart racing at the sight of the animal. But before they could retreat, the wolf sensed their presence and charged toward them. "Run!" Jack shouted, grabbing Clara's arm and pulling her along. They sprinted through the snow, but Clara stumbled on an unseen patch of ice, twisting her ankle painfully. She cried out in pain as she fell to the ground. Jack turned back immediately, concern etched on his face. "Clara!" He rushed to her side, quickly assessing her injury. "Can you stand?" I can't," she gasped, tears of frustration pooling in her eyes. The wolf was closing in fast, its growls echoing through the trees. Jack's instincts kicked in. "We need to get you somewhere safe." He scanned the area and spotted a nearby tree with low branches. "I'll help you climb up. We can wait there until it leaves." With determination, Jack helped Clara to her feet, supporting most of her weight as they made their way to the tree. The wolf circled closer, its eyes locked on them. Clara's heart raced as she felt Jack's strength beside her. He was entirely focused on keeping her safe. Once at the tree, they hoisted Clara up on a branch just as the wolf lunged toward them. Jack quickly climbed up next to her, positioning himself protectively between Clara and the dangerous animal below. They sat in tense silence as the wolf paced around the base of the tree, its growls low and threatening. Clara's mind raced with fear, but she focused on Jack's steady presence beside her. "Thank you for saving me," she whispered. Jack glanced at her, his brow furrowed in concentration but softened by care. "We'll get through this together," he replied firmly. After what felt like an eternity, the wolf finally lost interest and wandered off into the woods. Once it was gone, Jack helped Clara climb down carefully, mindful of her injured ankle. "Let's get you back to the cabin," he said gently. Despite the scare, Clara felt a swell of gratitude for Jack's unwavering support. Their alliance had been tested under real danger, but together they emerged stronger, solidifying their bond in ways they hadn't imagined possible. Each learned how much they could rely on one another, deepening their friendship amidst the wilderness dangers. As the weeks progressed, Clara felt a shift within herself. The fear that had once gripped her heart began to loosen its hold, replaced by a growing sense of hope. With Jack's unwavering support, she started to prepare for motherhood with renewed determination. They worked together to create a safe haven in the cabin, gathering supplies and crafting makeshift items for the baby. One chilly afternoon, as Jack was out hunting, Clara sat by the fire, stitching fabric remnants into tiny blankets. She remembered her husband's excitement when they first learned she was pregnant, his dream of a family filled with love echoed in her heart. The thought of that future filled her with warmth, pushing aside the shadows of despair that once lingered. When Jack returned with fresh game, he saw Clara hard at work on the tiny blankets. "They look beautiful," he said with a smile, his eyes sparkling with genuine admiration. Clara felt a blush rise to her cheeks at his praise. "Thank you, Jack. I want to make sure the baby has everything it needs." Jack knelt beside her, watching intently as she worked. "You're going to be an amazing mother," he assured her, and Clara felt a swell of gratitude for his words. They sat together, sharing ideas about names and dreams for the child they would raise together, conversations filled with laughter and hope. One evening, as they prepared dinner, Clara took a deep breath and shared her fears about becoming a parent without her husband. "I often wonder if I can do this alone," she confessed, her voice shaky. Jack reached out and gently squeezed her hand. "You're not alone, Clara. I may not be family, but I will be here to support you every step of the way." In that moment, Clara realized how much Jack's presence meant to her. Together, they faced challenges not just from the wilderness but also from their own vulnerabilities. With each passing day, she felt stronger, more capable of embracing motherhood and the life ahead of her. Her heart swelled with hope, a hope that whispered of new beginnings and the promise of brighter days awaiting them both amidst the starkness of winter's hold. As the winter slowly began to fade and the first signs of spring emerged, Clara felt an exhilarating sense of anticipation. The days grew longer and warmer, and the once desolate landscape around the cabin began to transform into a canvas of vibrant colors. It was time for her to face motherhood, and she was ready. With Jack by her side, Clara prepared for the arrival of her baby with courage and determination. Together, they had constructed a cozy nursery corner in the cabin filled with soft blankets and handmade items that reflected their shared journey. Clara marveled at how her fears had turned into hope, all thanks to Jack's unwavering support. One bright morning, while Jack prepared breakfast, Clara felt a surge of energy coursing through her. "I think today is the day," she said, a mix of excitement and nerves fluttering in her stomach. Jack looked up, a mixture of pride and concern on his face as he approached her. "I'll be right here with you," he promised, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. As labor began, Clara drew strength from Jack's steady presence. He had transformed from a mere ally into a true friend, someone who understood not just the physical challenges but also the emotional weight of this moment. They worked together seamlessly. Jack supported her through each contraction while maintaining an atmosphere of calmness and resolve. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of hard work and determination, Clara held her newborn baby in her arms. Tears streamed down her cheeks as joy flooded her heart. In that moment, any remnants of despair were washed away by overwhelming love. Jack stood beside her, awe evident in his expression as he gazed at the tiny life they had welcomed into the world together. "You did it, Clara," he whispered, admiration filling his voice. "You're incredible." As they settled into their new roles, Clara reflected on their journey, the trials they faced that strengthened their friendship and the lessons they learned about trust and survival. In the harshest moments of winter, they forged an unexpected bond that would last a lifetime, teaching them both that family isn't solely defined by blood but by those who support you through life's toughest challenges. With Jack by her side and a new life to care for, Clara felt empowered to embrace whatever lay ahead, knowing they could face it together, stronger than ever before in this beautiful yet unpredictable world.